my job and yeah, there isn't really a plan. How do you find juggling work and travel? Career plans, any advice for new graduates who have no idea what to do next? Why did you quit your job? How to escape the expectation to have a corporate job after uni? I quit my job and I don't really have a plan. So I'm going to answer a lot of the questions that all of you had for me that I asked on Instagram. If you're not following me over there, then that's where I ask you guys to ask me any questions that you might have. So yeah, this is just going to be a general kind of life update Q&A video because, as I said, I quit my job about almost 2 months ago now, and yeah, there isn't really a plan. So let's get into the questions. Why did you quit your job? Okay, so the reason why I ended up quitting my job is that it had got to the point where I felt as though I wasn't really learning anymore. I learned a lot, I absorbed a lot of different information, I learned a lot of different skills that I didn't have before, and I was exposed to lots of different areas and lots of client work that I hadn't had previous experience with, and I really, really enjoyed the steep learning curve there was at the beginning of the job when I started it back in October. There were pros and cons to the job. I did really, really enjoy it, but it got to the point where I just thought I'm not really learning anymore and I'm not really growing or developing in the way that I want to. So yeah, I just decided to quit, and I'm very thankful and in a very privileged position because I am quite good with my savings. So I had enough in my emergency fund. I looked at it and I thought, I think I'll be able to live on this for now. So yeah, I just took the plunge and I did it. It is a scary thing to do, and I think a lot of people have messaged me and their concern is kind of like, do you have a plan? What's next? What are you doing? It's obviously a big decision to decide to quit your job and not have anything lined up. I am, I think, going to do a separate video on all of that kind of stuff, my mindset behind it, and why I'm not worried or stressed about what's coming next. I see it as very exciting. There are so many opportunities out there, so many new things I can do, so many things I can focus on during this time. But obviously it was a big decision and not one that I took lightly. What is your job? I'd love a job that also allows me to travel while I work. Again, I'm going to do a more in-depth video on how to find a remote job, but my job was fully remote. I worked as a strategy consultant. It's what I've worked as in my 2 previous jobs. You just have to find a remote job, and if it's remote, it generally is slightly more flexible than other more traditional jobs. But again, it's on the list. I'm going to do a more in-depth video about how to find a remote job and all the websites and tips and tricks that I have for when I've been applying and looking for jobs. So if you don't want to miss that video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when I do post. How to escape the expectation to have a corporate job after uni. I know it's really hard, believe me, I've been there. I've spoken about this in Liz's other videos as well, that there's so much pressure, especially when you're around your peers and you see people getting internships and then they turn into jobs, and you see people going through the whole grad scheme cycle of applications and things. What you have to just tell yourself and remind yourself of is that might not be what you want to do. That might not be what is the best decision for you. And I knew that about myself. I knew that I didn't want to go and do one of these grad schemes straight out of uni. I always knew, and I've spoken about this in previous videos, that I always wanted to do a second gap year to travel after uni, and then I wanted to do another year of study, and then I wanted to then go and branch out into the world and figure out what I wanted to do with my career. Obviously COVID changed all of those plans. Again, I've spoken about them in several videos I can link below, but my main piece of advice is figure out whether going down these corporate jobs and these grad schemes is something you want to do. If it's not, if you want to do something else, and yes, that thing probably does go against the grain and is very different and very difficult to kind of decide when you're in that pressure cooker environment and you see everyone else around you getting these grad schemes, getting these corporate jobs. You just have to say to yourself, this is not what I want to do. I want to do something else, and I know that I can do it. For example, if you're following me and it's because you want to also get a remote job, one that allows you to travel and is a bit more flexible, you can do that. I'm telling you, especially with the pandemic, it's made it so much more feasible and so much more likely. So yeah, it's just weighing up what you actually want. Do you want the money? Do you want the prestige? Do you want to go into, you know, a corporate career? Do you want more structure? Weigh up what you want, whether, you know, money does really matter to you, things like that, because I can see how you can be attracted by these big figures and by the kind of prestige from it. But if that's what you want, that's completely fair enough. But if you don't want that and you want an alternative path, you can definitely find a way to do that. So I just say, just ask yourself if that's what you want, weigh up the pros and cons, and then once you kind of figure out what you kind of want to do, what kind of career, because I'd say you know, if you don't want these corporate jobs, have some kind of general idea of what kind of career you want. Don't just be completely blindsided and not know anything. Have a kind of general idea. Doesn't necessarily even need to be like the sector or industry, because I still don't even know what like sector or industry I want to go into. But if you just know like the things that are non-negotiable to you, that's a good start. Because I'm here in Lisbon and I'm here to get my Portuguese passport, and that's all that matters to me. To other people who have just graduated, you know, what matters to them is being able to get a really high salary, being able to save a lot of money, being able to live in the city with their friends. Those things might matter to them. Most of my friends are based in London, and I don't even live in the country anymore. So to me, it was more important to come and live abroad and to pursue Portuguese citizenship, which I've spoken about so much in other videos. But that's a sacrifice that I have made. And even sometimes now I do find myself comparing myself to my peers, and even my school peers who graduated 2 years before me, who are in very well established jobs, climbing up the corporate ladder and on really good salaries, etc, etc. Those people even buying houses now. I'm in no position to do that anytime soon. And you know, sometimes you do find yourself comparing yourself, but you need to remember that you have made the decision for you, and you've made the right decision for what is best for you. And if you're happy with that, then that's all that matters. And you should only compare yourself with your past self. You shouldn't compare yourself with your peers who are on completely different life trajectories and have completely different goals and ideas and visions for their lives. As long as you're on track for what you want and what works for you, then that is honestly all that matters. How do you find juggling work and travel? How much flexibility did you have with your job? Okay, so working and traveling, I'm gonna write a blog post on this, I think, because it is a completely different kind of travel. And I wrote a bit about this in one of my previous captions, but your time isn't really your own because you are still having to work full time. I still had to work 7 to 8 hours every single day while I was still trying to explore, while I was still trying to travel. And my travel trip was very different in the sense that I didn't just go to Thailand and base myself in one city for a whole month and then like move on to another city for another month. No, I was moving around every week or every few days because I wanted to see more of the country, which again is like a decision that I took myself. It meant that I was exhausted a lot more because I was constantly moving places, constantly having to move around and juggle sightseeing and moving with the workday. I found it very hard, very, very, very tiring at times and very trying. But for me, it was 100% worth it because it meant I got to see so much of the countries that I visited and so many of the different cities that I was in. And so it was worth the exhaustion to do that for me. Because I was in Southeast Asia, but I was working on UK hours, it meant that my workday didn't start until 3 p.m. in that sense that my job was quite flexible, that if I wanted to start working at 8 a.m. UK time, then I could. And there were times where I was working with US clients, so because of the time difference, US and Thailand, for example, I remember having to have meetings at 2 a.m. Thai time, which I did because it was my choice to be abroad and all of that. But again, it is a decision that I made that I personally think is worth it, but for some people, they wouldn't want to do that. And I would also say, I think, working full-time whilst traveling isn't for everyone because you do sacrifice a lot. It is exhausting. You don't necessarily see all the things you want to. It can be very isolating when you're working completely alone remotely. Would you do a silent retreat again? And if so, where? I've literally just done my silent retreat video, so go and watch that if you haven't already. I would 100% do it, and I'm gonna go back and do it again. I'm gonna not do the 10-day one. I'm gonna go back and do the 26-day one. Like, I'm absolutely doing 26 days at some point, and it will be at the exact same temple because to me, that temple in Chiang Mai, it was just so special and meant so much to me. And I can't imagine doing my next silent retreat anywhere else but that temple. So I'm gonna go to that temple, and then probably in the future when I do another one, which I do want to do, I'll do it somewhere else. And then it will be an interesting experience to see how different it is or how similar it is, and how much like the environment affects your experience and stuff like that. But definitely my next one will be back at the same temple in Thailand. When are you back in London? Then I'm back in London when, I don't know when. I'm only in England 2 or 3 times a year. So if anyone wants to host me in London for a bit, then I will happily come and hop over back to London. But until then, I don't know when I'm back. The final question that I have time for is career plans. Any advice for new graduates who have no idea what to do next? So my career plans, I don't really know. I want to take you guys all along on the journey with me so that I can be figuring it out and you guys can follow along with me, and hopefully it can help those of you also in the same position. Don't really have any other than the fact that I do want to do more like online classes and courses and things so that I can just develop myself and explore other things that I'm really interested in on the side while I am not working. I'd like to pick up coding again. I'd like to get back into sewing. I want to do like more online courses of like topics and subjects that I'm interested in, do a bit more psychology, do things that I'm interested in, and things that potentially could help in a future career. I'm not really sure, but my advice for graduates at the moment is just try different things, apply for different jobs in different sectors and different areas. I think the best way is just to explore and learn, and it's only by doing things and taking on different roles that you can really figure out what it is that you like, what skills that you have, and what things that you actually enjoy doing as part of the job. Because when I was applying for jobs last year, you get so wrapped up in like the job title, but it's not about the job title. It's honestly, that's like a myth. People have this job title for like prestige or whatever, but it isn't about the job title, so don't get sucked up into that. My piece of advice would be look at the actual job description. What are you actually going to be doing day to day? If it doesn't sound like something you think you'd be interested in, just don't apply, because it's more important about what you're going to be doing day to day than what your job title is going to say on LinkedIn. Like, try things, say yes to opportunities, try and find work experience or internships, do these free online courses, and just honestly be open to anything. Research, read, connect with people who are doing things in different industries, talk to them, ask questions, be inquisitive. That is my main piece of advice. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comment section below. Any video requests, also let me know. I've got loads coming on like my travel guides, my travel tips, etc. Loads of those kinds of videos. Thank you for watching this, and hopefully see you in my next video. Bye.